Keep it going for Arturo O'Farrill and the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. Welcome and good evening. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm Jocelyn Bonadio de Freitas. I'm a sometimes host at WQXR and a sometimes host here at the Greene Space. It has been my pleasure and my honor to have hosted all 4 events of this absolutely incredible residency. Hopefully you've been to some of the previous ones. If you haven't, you're right on time. Each one has been absolutely incredible. The piece we just played, though, before we move ahead too far, it's called
40 Acres and a Burro.
Okay. And y'all were chanting a little refrain, and hablo español, pero for the people who don't know, the refrain was La injusticia se acabó, which means
the injustice is over. At least temporarily it was where we were experiencing it.
while the music was happening.
Not so much now.
You know, we do the best we can. So I was on the train earlier today, and my phone didn't get Wi-Fi, so I had a time to reflect. And I was thinking about all the wonderful events of this residency. We had friends and foes at the piano. We had a celebration of Afrobeat. We had music of resistance. And tonight we have a brand new composition, a world premiere. This music, and just you as a focal point, Arturo, I'm filled with gratitude for your musical leadership, because it's like having a musical passport. We've gone to Nigeria, to France, to Spain, to Egypt, to Cuba, to Harlem, to Mexico, to San Diego, literally all over to the Middle East, jumping continents, including the new composition that we're going to hear tonight. And it's really nice to have a guide, and it's really nice to be able to do it through music, through the arts. There's something cleansing about doing that we all really need right now in this time of ICE and travel bans and separation at the border and nationalism. It's really an honor and a privilege to have you lead us in this. So a brief round of applause for some artistic leadership. Now, we have more pieces coming up.
Yes, we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear? We want to stay informed. We want to be thinking. We want to know what we're doing.
This next piece is written to celebrate the relationship with Cuba, which of course is sacred to me because of my father, and the blood that I carry inside my veins is Cuban. And lo and behold, we recorded the Afro-Latin Jazz Suite in Havana at the Abdallah Studios on the day after an amazing announcement was made by Presidents Raul Castro and Barack Obama, in which they said, and I quote, "A failed policy of 60 years is being done away with." And here we are, just 2 years later, and we're back to square one. The stupidity just goes back and forth. And these people are ridiculous because they're punishing an impoverished nation for a policy that never worked in a way that never will work. And it's just tragic. We've gone backwards. Our government has completely gone backwards.
And the piece is called?
What Now?
A fitting question. After What Now, part of the Afro-Latin Jazz Suite, we're going to hear another piece that I know has an alternative title.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Greene Space has bleeping out capabilities. So we'll go with the G-rated title, which is
Clump on Clump.
Clump on Clump.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stick with that one for now. We'll stick with that one for now.
Talk about it.
Okay, I will be back a little bit later in the show. For now, What Now? And Clump Unclump. Are you enjoying yourself so far? Absolutely. Okay. Is your music okay?
It went flying.
It went flying.
Yeah, it went flying. Oh, there it is.
There
It's
we
too
go.
late. We played this already. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Timing is everything.
Arturo, I want to talk about some of your recent projects. In the last calendar year, you've been to the Middle East. You've been to the Mexican-American border. Can we start with the project on the Mexican-American border? Can you describe what you were doing down there for the audience?
Yeah, we went to join a gentleman, a real visionary, named Jorge Francisco Castillo, who for the past 12 years has been gathering musicians, friends, and family on both sides of the border in Tijuana and San Diego, and performing, jamming through the mesh, this incredibly beautiful music called Son Jarocho music. And the incredible thing about it is to see the mesh is very thin. It's really thin, so you can't really do anything but maybe stick the tip of your pinky through and touch another human being. But you can hear. And so they bring their jaranas, their guitars, their zapateados, their dancing, and they celebrate unity in the face of a wall. And I was flabbergasted when I heard about this. I mean, using the very tools of oppression to liberate us is one of the great, great miracles and tricks of all time. And he did this. And so I wrote to him. I went down to Mexico. I studied some of that music. I brought a ton of people to support and be a part of that celebration. We recorded an album called Fandango at the Border, at the Wall, at the Mesh. And then we recorded another series of recordings, one in a courtyard in Tijuana, another one in a recording studio in New York City. And we had such a cast. I mean, we had the mighty Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. We had Regina Carter, Antonio Sanchez, the Villalobos brothers, Rahim Al-Haj, Saba Motalebi, Anna Tijou. I mean, it was a moment unlike anything I've ever seen. And really, it doesn't need to get political because it's so supercharged with power and grace. And if you don't get the message, I'm sorry, you don't have a beating heart.
And most recently, you were in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that is like? Literally a world away from where we are.
We went to, I read a wonderful book by Ned Sublett called Cuba and Its Music. And literally the first few hundred pages of it are tracing the roots of the music through the southern, western, and northern part of Africa into Spain, Morocco, and eventually reaching into the Middle East. And so he contends that a lot of the musical practices that we consider part of jazz and part of Afro-Cuban jazz really are Middle Eastern. And so I thought this was a really interesting idea. And I contacted my friend Bill Bragg and Eric Toller, and I went to have a meeting with him, and we decided we would put on a concert exploring these roots. And so I went on a fact-finding mission. Tell you the story really quickly. I went on a fact-finding mission to Kuwait, and Bill introduced me to a bunch of percussionists saying, this is Mr. O'Farrill. He wants to do a discovering journey about the African roots of jazz. Please say a word, Mr. O'Farrill. And I said, the drum is our spiritual master. It leads us, and the oldest, biggest guy there said to me, funny, you don't look African. So I got a little bit of flack, but I said, teach me one of your rhythms. And he did. He taught me some of his clay pot rhythms in the Kuwaiti tradition. He looked at me after a while and said, how did you learn our rhythms? And I said, wait a second. Let me teach you a mambo and a cha-cha-cha and a wah-wah-ko. So we played Havana Blues, which goes back and forth between a wah-wah-ko and a cha-cha-cha, and they just had a great time. And before you knew it, we were all there. We were all there playing Havana Blues with these same percussionists, these folks here on this stage, connecting, not building bridges maybe, but discovering ones that are already there, discovering traces of lineage that every human being on earth shares. And that was one of the most spiritual things I've ever seen.
That's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. I just want to briefly mention the fact that a lot of what we've been talking about through the residency, and obviously you just heard through those stories, that this really isn't about genre. It's sort of above, not in a hierarchical way, but just in the sense of something bigger. And at the same time, you have the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, and you also have the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance. And I didn't want to leave out the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance tonight because Arturo and I met. I'm also a pianist. He was my piano teacher at Brooklyn College. Every once in a while, I still get a lesson and get my butt kicked. But education is really important to you. I've always known that about you. One thing I remember from your classes was talking about the fact that it's just as important to be in the classroom as it is to be on stage. This is a person who could obviously just be touring and playing and making music, and they're choosing to do a lot more than that. And to have this educational piece is really important to you. Can you just talk really, really briefly, because we're almost out of time for this little break, about what you do?
We have a residency program in the New York City Public Schools. We raise tens of thousands of dollars to buy trumpets, trombones, trombones begrudgingly, saxophones, basses, guitars, pads, drums, and we go into the public city school system serving 2,000 marginalized school children by giving them instruments and teaching them how to play them and teaching them how to play in ensembles. And, I kind of have to pinch myself when I realize we also have a pre-professional training program called the Fat Afro-Latin Jazz Cats. We have an after-school program called GRIO, Global Rhythms in Our Tribe. And we have anti-gun, anti-violence initiatives. And it's just crazy to think that you can separate yourself as a performer from being a teacher. Somebody's checking you out. Somebody's learning from you, whether or not you realize it. And the truth of the matter is you better be really, really conscious of what you do and say, because that's how people pick up their cues for their lives. And so I figured we might as well concentrate in that area and teach kids.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay. So we have more music, of course, thankfully. We have 3 pieces for this next musical break. 3 Revolutions, Little Tiny Men, and El Makesh. Can you talk to us about 3 Revolutions? I know is a Cuban history sort of overview, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Is that a bad way of describing it?
Not quite.
Okay.
I was in Havana.
That's why he's my teacher.
I was in Havana the day that Fidel died, and I'll never forget. I went up to many Cubans and said, "This is incredible. How do you feel about this moment?" And they would look at me and go, "Bueno, Arturito, es complicado." It's complicated because, in a way, there's no doubt that Fidel was one of the great heroes of their lives, and of course beloved in Pan-Africa and Pan-Latin America. But he had to make some awful decisions, and some of that stuff was not easy to stomach. But kind of that was a response to Texaco not being willing to give up land that he was repatriating to the Cubans. So of course the embargo came in and things went crazy. Anyway, when he passed away, it seemed to me like the real sad ending to a revolution. It was the same week that we had our presidential election, and the results of it were devastating to many of us, and I thought that was also the end of a dream and also the end of a revolution. And so I spoke to the idea that we're still waiting for the 3rd revolution, the revolution where every human being on earth is given the dignity, the love, and the respect. We have the resource to feed, clothe, and educate every single human being on earth. But some folks insist on keeping a lot for themselves while everybody struggles. And this is the revolution. It has nothing to do with communism, socialism. It has nothing to do with anything but the desire to see every human being on earth live with dignity.
And maybe the opposite of that, Little Tiny Men?
Little Tiny Men is
related.
Yeah, it's somewhat related. I wrote a suite called the Little Tiny Wall Suite, and the first movement is called Little Tiny Buildings. Second movement is called Borderless, and the third movement is entitled Little Tiny Men. Little Tiny Men is about bullying. It's about people who enforce their will on you because they have the money or the power, and they are hoodwinking the nation in a terrible, terrible way. And it seems like such an anti-progressive thing to do, to get your way by demanding. It's just tiny. It's tiny-minded. And I believe we're in the throes of a real tiny-minded era in terms of our governance. And so some of you may not agree with me, but I apologize. It just seems like little tiny men are ruling the world.
And El Makesh.
El Makesh is a Yucatan folk song that was arranged by Adam O'Farrill, my son. It's one of the pieces we recorded right at the border between Mexico and the United States.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Should we play them one right after the other?
Yes, play
Okay.
one right after the other, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I know all the big words. The really big words. He's doing a wonderful job. These are bad men, bad hombres. They're serial rapists and killers. But Arturo, we're going to build that wall.
as arranged by Adam O'Farrill. Before that, Little Tiny Men and Three Revolutions. It's almost time for the world premiere. I'm very excited. Can't wait. We're going to talk about it. But first, I feel like we can't really go much farther without acknowledging the musicians in the band. Would you introduce the musicians
I'd
and
be
so everyone
delighted
can
to.
have a chance
Larry
to get credit?
Bustamante, Alejandro Aviles, Roman Filiu, Alexa Tarantino, Yvonne Renta, Earl McIntyre, Ben Barnett, Frank Cohen, Rafi Malkiel, Vitaly Golevnev, Scott Engelbright, Brian Davis, Jim Seeley, Vince Cherico, Bam Bam Rodriguez, Ivan Yanis, Carlos Maldonado. My name is Arturo O'Farrill, and we are the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra.
Absolutely. Okay. So tell me just this wonderful residency, which was funded by the Jerome L. Greene Foundation, which we're extremely grateful for. You can clap. We'll say more thanks just as we close the program, but it includes this world premiere, this commission of a brand new piece of music, which we're about to hear. Tell us the title of the piece, but don't tell us anything else.
Gulab Hamon.
Okay. And the subtitle of the piece, we'll get to it.
Translucent Fluidity.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask the audience, and you can shout it out, if anything comes to mind when you hear the words translucent fluidity. Blood? Okay, anything else?
Wow.
Translucent fluidity. Okay.
Brisket, yeah.
Translucent fluidity. Spirit? Rum. Okay. What else? Whiskey. Run a booze tip now. Translucent fluidity. Anything else? Jellyfish. Water. Water. And rum. I feel like rum is like similar.
Yeah, let's just put rum in
We'll
there.
put rum in there.
Just put that right in the
It can't
mix.
hurt. Okay, so tell us. So the title is Translucent Fluidity is kind of like it's a subtitle. It's a spirit associated with this piece.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we get so locked into our rigid points, finite points of existence, and it just doesn't translate that well. And so for me, the perfect example of that is liquid, especially water, but rum too. It can exist as many different entities. It can be solid, it can be liquid, it can be plasma, it can be gas, it can be antimatter. So it's really interesting to me because it says that the same element that is water, the same basic combination of things takes on many shapes. And I feel like there's this wonderful TED Talk, I forget the woman's name, but she made the most beautiful comment about how we ourselves are liquid. And we're not going to be here forever. And the beautiful thing about that is it should liberate us from finding finiteness as a way to define ourselves. It should liberate us from having to define ourselves by labels like Republican, liberal, Democrat, CNN, Fox, Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, jazz, exactly, jazz, classical, gay, straight, black, white. Those are all great things to look at. But at the end of the day, we all will go to the same place. So it's how are you going to hang on to those things when you're just, worm food?
And speaking of food, the title is like a mashup.
It is a mashup. I happen to be a huge fan of Indian food and a huge fan of Spanish food. I love jamón ibérico, and I love gulab jamun, which is a great Indian dessert. It's kind of a pudding, solid, beautiful thing that I can't even describe. And so, the me, it's also a statement on the fluidity between Spain and India, because if you talk to flamenco singers and you ask them how they do what they do, they will say it goes back to India. So the idea of there being Indian roots in flamenco music and just spoke to me. about same thing like when we went to the Middle East to find the Afro-Cuban roots of jazz. If you search back far enough, you'll find all kinds of connections, and they're all so wonderful, and they're all not to be feared. So Gulab Hamon is my statement at saying, be fluid, be translucent, don't be locked in. It's the most beautiful way to be.
I can't wait to hear it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep it going for the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra in the world premiere. Yes, take it back. We just have a few thank yous to wrap up our night tonight. We want to say a big thank you and a super happy 10th anniversary to the Greene Space. This is an absolutely wonderful space with an incredible staff of super open-minded people. There's fantastic programming here all of the time. The next artist residency in the Greene Space starts on Tuesday. The artist in residence is Hilton Alls. He's a staff writer at The New Yorker. They're going to be having a series of conversations every single month around poetry, public life, politics. It's going to be fantastic. So definitely come back to the Greene Space. Check out the rest of their calendar. They literally have amazing things going on all the time. The Greene Space wouldn't be possible without the Jerome L. Greene Foundation, who we're so grateful for. None of this would be possible without financial support. We're really, really grateful. Also want to say tremendous thank you to you, Arturo, for leading us through these 4 wonderful events. And to the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. The Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra will be appearing May 3rd and 4th at Symphony Space. If you're dying to get more of this music, they're going to be performing some of the music from the Fandango at the Wall project that Arturo was describing before. So find yourself uptown on May 3rd and 4th. I'm Jocelyn Bonadio. Thank you so much to you for coming out tonight, for supporting the arts, for supporting this work, for being open-minded, for listening, for taking a chance and exploring something new. A big round of applause to yourselves, and enjoy the rest of your night.